Hey Ellison, welcome back. In this podcast, we interview fellow Ellison residents. They happen to own a business and they happen to live right here in Ellison. We get to know their story, how they got started, what do they do today, so that you can support local businesses, just like Ricardo over here. If you want to see one of our previous interviews that we've had, they're all on YouTube on our channel. Feel free to jump in there and take a look and see the other folks we've interviewed. If you think of somebody that you've already seen and you want to refer them, that's the link. That's where you find their contact information. That's where you can share that video out and get the word out there to help support Ellison residents. It's always fun to get to know people's stories, to see how they got started, and to see what they're doing today here in Ellison. And today, we get to meet Ricardo.
Hello.
Ricardo, tell us, who is Ricardo? Where are you from? And how did you end up here in Ellison?
Well, thank you. My name is Ricardo Gattas-Moras. I've been living in Ellison for about 2 years now. Originally moved to Houston actually when I was about 12 from El Salvador, and then lived most of my life in Sugar Land, moved back to Houston. Through work, we ended up moving, my husband and I ended up moving to Austin and lived there for about 5 or 6 years. That's where we started our family, but really all of our family lived here in Houston, so when we had the opportunity to move back to Houston, we ended up finding Ellison, and we just fell in love with the neighborhood and decided to make our move back. So we've been here for about 2 years now since we moved back to Austin, but most of my life has been in Texas and specifically the Houston area.
Fantastic. So here in Ellison, and tell us, I know you today, of course, as marketing genius, right?
Yeah.
It's, Poppy.
I don't know about genius, but thanks. Yeah.
Poppy, what's the business name again? Poppy.
Poppy Marketing and
Poppy
Consulting.
Marketing and Consulting.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with Poppy Marketing and Consulting, have you always been in marketing, or tell us maybe some of your career journey? How did you end up starting Poppy Marketing and Consulting?
Yeah, thank you. Like, I've always had a passion for marketing. I think that marketing is just an essential thing for any business and any business owner to know, right, as a skill set. Because you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to put it out there and market it correctly, then people won't know how to buy it.
Yeah.
So through my career, I actually started working for a like major technology company, one of the telecommunications company. Started out in the retail aspect of things. First, I thought it would just be something temporary, but it really turned out to be something that I gained a lot of interest in, and with the goals of eventually being able to get to a marketing position with them.
Great.
After some years of working in leadership, I worked all the way until like director level with them. Actually, director level with them, and then got the opportunity to start working for their corporate teams.
Great.
Initially within their culture and engagement group, and that led me into the marketing segment of this organization, and I ended up working there for approximately 5 years in different roles within marketing.
In the marketing role then?
Correct,
okay.
I was leading all of the marketing efforts internally for about 17,000 employees and nationwide, divided into 6 different segments, markets.
Yep.
And it was really an experience like no other to have the opportunity to lead that kind of a role with an organization that big that really gave me all of the fundamentals to help and launch what is Poppy Marketing now.
That's good. And before you were in that marketing role, were you doing accounting, sales? What was your background before that?
Yeah, good. So like I said, I started in the retail side. So I was doing sales within one of the retail stores. Moved up in leadership within that role, and then ended up taking on the director level, which essentially was managing multiple different locations. I think at one point in Austin, I had about 11 locations, about 98 employees that we were leading.
That's awesome.
And so it was predominantly in the sales aspect of it, but like every other role, right, it bleeds into everything, especially at the director level, which you had to manage the marketing decisions that were being made for our area. Got an opportunity to be exposed to operations, project management, and all type of skill sets that ended up helping me get into the position where I could then take on a formal marketing role within the organization. And that's how I ended up landing there.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so critical too, because like sales is often on the receiving side of the benefits of marketing, right? They don't always recognize the value that marketing brings.
Yes.
But being that you have that background and you understand the challenges of sales really in a business, it also plays, I'm sure, into your views on marketing today with that experience.
Oh my gosh, 100%. Especially when you think about messaging, and you know, coming as what ended up being my customer as a marketing expert, right, for the retail locations. Me coming from that point of view and understanding how sometimes a message that's not connected from what we're telling our customers versus what we're telling our employees can really get in the way of our employees being able to successfully position and sell things correctly. So really understanding how important that message unity is and like cohesion around branding made a big difference in the way that we made decisions for most of our internal marketing campaigns, right? And not deviating and focusing simply on here's what you need to know, but also here's what our customers are also being told and what's important for you to know so that when they come in, you can speak the same language. So that, I think that was one of the things that brought a lot of success to the role, that the ability to put myself in the shoes of the people that we were serving was really easy since I came specifically from that background.
That's great. Yeah, and you got to go from one company all the way up through that process too. You
Absolutely.
get to understand them.
And
that's great.
Just realize the different, the other piece too is like understanding all of the different teams and components and decisions that have to go into every decision that's made, right? So then having that perspective really allowed me to be able to make decisions better and and ensuring that the right people were always in the room.
Yeah, certainly. Good, very good. I like it. So this idea of starting your own marketing company, when did that idea first take plant or start the idea rolling, and when did you actually make the jump?
Okay, so I remember being really young at one point and driving by this. I used to live in Houston, around the downtown area, and driving by this marketing agency all the time and telling myself, one day I'm gonna start my own. One day I'm gonna have my own, marketing business. So I think the idea maybe started there, or the seed of the idea, right? It was planted there. But like I mentioned, I was working for this corporation, and when we went through COVID, as most people experience, our work changed, and a lot of us started doing work that was normally from an office assignment to working from home. So that gave me the opportunity to actually join the corporate side of things that would normally require me to move somewhere else. Now, as we started coming back into the office, a lot of those roles were being asked to come back. So when the decision was put in front of me of whether I wanted to move our family again and take that opportunity, or maybe look into potentially taking a severance package and being able to kind of take that and do something with it. It was an easy decision, as I think most people really have to think through. But I ended up taking the leap on myself and decided to start my own thing.
To jump in. That's great. It's that quick extra, hey, it's a little bit of a fire plus a little bit of fuel to get rolling and, and going there.
But also feeling like I was prepared. I don't know that the same decision would have been made perhaps 5 years ago, but I did feel like I had the right skill set and the right preparation to be able to take something on this way. So that's, I think that plays a part as well, right? Because I think if you have the urge to start a business, you have that urge, you have the desire, but you may not necessarily feel fully prepared. And you don't have to be 100% prepared, but confident enough that you can figure out the solutions. And that's where I felt that at the moment.
That's awesome. And then when you started, did you spend several months kind of in the planning phase of how are you going to build the business? How are you going to market your own business? Or did you just kind of jump right in? You already had a few clients rolling, or what was that process like?
No, certainly. I mean, it took a lot of processing and really understanding. First of all, just understanding who I was outside of working for the same company for 17 years, right? Like, what's my new identity? Because it was always attached to who I was. But then, how do I build this new identity around being a business owner? And really the reality check of okay, every decision is up to me now. Right? It's like no one's telling me what to do, or I can't use anybody's budget. It's like my budget, right? So just really understanding the reality of what it was to have a business, and then doing all the fundamentals, right? And that in itself, I think, gives you a good set of experiences about like opening up your LLC, understanding, copyright, figuring out your taxes, right? And like just the things that you need to consider to like feel confident in the foundation of the business. And then doing market analysis because, marketing, it's something that I feel passionate about. It's such a broad term, and it's like where within the marketing world do you fit in? And I have a lot of passion for, one, branding, but then also like artificial intelligence, with the revolution of AI, just the possibilities of what it creates for a business and for people in general. So that's where I started kind of putting together the idea of how it's going to show up.
That's awesome. And of course, I'm sure you guys have seen in the Ellison Residence page, Ricardo's constantly posting up little blitz and burbs about AI. He did a little Zoom podcast a little while ago where we had some local Ellison residents meet up together, and I jumped on that just briefly at the very end as I got to hear that conversation. But it's a fun area. Certainly want to talk more about that today too. Is in that AI space, there's a whole new hype, and they're like, all the white collar people are going to lose all their jobs. AI is going to take over the world. Is it there yet?
No, no. And I think it's like any other big change, right? When we saw the internet, computers come in, it immediately creates opportunities and for different skill sets. And I think that's where we are with AI. Like it's opened up the doors to things that had to be done manually to be done now automatically. So now the skill set is more about like strategy, critical thinking, perspective, and then how do you bring your background into creating what's easier to create now with AI. So I don't, will it take over some jobs? The studies say that it will take over some, but it will create some new ones, just like everything else.
No, that's great. So let's talk about value with AI for businesses. Where have you seen value, and where do you see value coming in the near future?
So what most people are familiar with is like the concept of a large language model, right? You're thinking of like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and these are all models that use a set of information that helps you give an output based on what you ask it, right? And a prompt, if you may. That's where we've been so far, and that in itself already creates so much value for businesses because you can use it as a way to like bounce ideas off of, to have new idea concepts come up, right? And I think it really is an inspiration funnel. It's not where you'll get your final answers, in my opinion, but it is where you can get option A, B, C, and D that you can choose from, and then maybe you end up with option F or another letter. Let's not do F, but whatever letter you want to assign to that. But it's a combination of all the things and your perspective as well. Where we're moving on to, I think, it's the agentic AI period, where like now it's not so much about you asking the models to like give you an output, and then that's it's a one-way conversation most of the time, but now it's how do we get the agent to actually understand my needs and then be able to go out, perform the task, and bring it to me without me having to explain every component of that, and without me having to do too much thinking, right? So I think that's where we are heading to now, and a lot of businesses can benefit from that, from a simple customer service agent that replies to your emails, right? Even if it is, because you want to feel confident that the responses are accurate always, right? But even if it is things like received, will be with you, and blank, things like that can be automated along with like many pieces of your customer journey, depending on what industry you're in.
So let's talk about that, right? Let's just say this scenario of somebody receiving a customer request or an email, maybe it's a complaint, right? How would someone go about building an agentic AI to respond to those emails?
Well, there's multiple ways, right? There's like just the coding way of just kind of building your own and having it host out of files from your computer, and then that way it can be educated on the subject matter. There are some cloud-based systems too that you can use. I think when we've had conversations, you talked about Zapier.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Zapier, it create some sort of an agentic experience as well.
Sure.
A lot of it is based on automations, right, task after task. But it really depends on the need. But there are, there is, the components that you want to choose is like, what platform am I going to use to be able to create this? What is the task that I wanted to perform? And then what set of education do I need to create in order for this agent to be able to pull information from the right place and not just make things up, right, or give incorrect information.
I see. Can you feed it like old emails, for example? And let's just say you have a support@companyname.com. There's a lot of emails and a lot of data in there. Can you feed it with that information? Or?
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think again, it depends on the goal, right? If your goal is to create an agent that speaks like you and that responds back like your tone of voice, then I think a set of emails is a good place.
Yep.
If you've drafted any papers or you have work, like it's good for it to give it a good set of, think about it like a picture, right? When they're making like a model, if you want to do like your profile and you want to do your front facing, and like, so with your writing and your tone of voice, you want to give it your different shades of how you write. But then also, maybe the goal is to have it have the voice of your company and not your own voice. So then creating a set of, starting from the fundamentals of who are you, what's your mission, what's your vision, what is your tone of voice, well, I guess what's your voice and then what's your tone, which often gets confused, right?
How are those different?
Yeah, so like your voice, I find it to be your personality. It's like who you are, your fundamentals, the core values, right? How you show up. And then your tone is how you adjust it based on the situation, right? Based on the customer response. Maybe the customer's asking for business or maybe the customer's escalated. I think your tone of voice should be different on how you address it. So I think understanding what that is for your company will then help the agents reply back or interact with the customers in the way that you want it to.
Got it. Very good. So, hey, depending on the situation, then of course your tone becomes much more relevant, right? If they're mad or if they're...
Yes, yeah.
Good.
And I think it's also important to know that those are all the possibilities. And then for some, as you're listening, it may sound like, okay, I wouldn't even want to touch a code or I don't think it's that important for you to be the expert at knowing how to do it. I think what's important is understanding that the capabilities are there. So if you're in a position where you need more time, you need to simplify a task, then you can find an expert like us or a preferred expert that you choose to help you figure out hey, how can I automate things in my business that will either help me increase productivity, free up my time, or maybe get me more business, right? And that's where the consultation comes into play. And knowing more about what you do and what your goals are will help set the right automations plan for you.
That's good. Very good. So you're in marketing. A lot of the types of marketing, maybe marketing is, as you said, it's a very broad field, right?
It is, yeah.
Are there any niches where you hunker down on, let's just say websites or, public events or what kind of areas do you really kind of focus on?
Yeah. So it is predominantly in the digital marketing presence. So I think websites is probably the most familiar to people. Most. So website is typically where the relationship begins. But I always like to scale back a little bit more too. Even if we start with a website, it's understanding what have you done to define your brand? Because taking the time to really do that work will help not just your website, but the rest of the components that will end up being your brand moving forward, right? Your customer journeys, your documents, your social media presence, all the different ways that people will learn about who you are. They're all grounded on the identity that you've created and the brand identity that you understand, right? And the values. And if you don't take the time to do that, it's going to be hard, or you're going to find yourself with too many options or too many ways to show up because you haven't truly defined who exactly it is that you want to show up as.
So I'm going to give you a twofold question here. Hopefully they can be answered together. But when you're talking about brand, right, and the importance of brand, why is it important? And then what does that look like when you're talking about the cohesiveness there of a brand amongst different spaces?
Yeah, well, I mean, brand, it's a representation of who you are, right? Like, think about how many decisions we make from a branding perspective. You go to the grocery store, you're looking for soap. You don't necessarily always sit there and read all the ingredients, but you look at the bottles, then you're like, oh, that one looks healthy, or that one looks,
Sure.
like it may smell good. And you go from there, but it is your initial relationship with customers. So, and in the digital world where we spend so much time in our phones and in our computers, having the ability to make sure that your business shows up the right way,
Yep.
and that it's attracting the right customers,
Sure.
it's a very important part of how successful you are,
Yep.
right? Some of the best businesses are grounded on a strong brand foundation. So I would say that is how important, in my opinion, marketing is, right? It is the introduction to customers. But then marketing goes beyond just like, okay, this is how we look, but then you go into how are we gonna talk? When you go into my website, how do I want you to interact?
Okay.
Right? What are the main actions that I want you to take? Are you showing up with credibility in your website? Is it easy? Is it smooth? Does the search engine understand how to navigate your website so it can recommend it to customers? Now in a world with AI, can then a large language model use you as a source that it provides answers from so that people can go to your website? So it's just all those different elements that still are part of the customer journey, right? Most of us make decisions with like, let me think, or like you see something in social media, let me think about that. Then you go on Google and you research it. And so you got to think of that full journey that most people take to make a purchase, to understand all the different marketing points that you want to touch for your business as well. And if they don't feel cohesive, then people will get confused about your brand, right? If you're saying, hey dude, on social media, but our professional processes that interact with in your website, there's going to be a disconnect there.
There's a disconnect on your target. That's interesting. So I imagine a lot of people that you work with, when you're coming to them, they're like, hey, I have a problem. It's marketing, right? Take my problem from me, and go through that. Walk us through, like, what's your maybe first conversations with them? Do you typically find out where they're going and then do an audit of their as is and what needs to get them to that place, or what does that look like? Conversation.
Good question. Where I find myself that our business has the most impact is for that business owner who has already started something. They're getting customers now, and they're at the process of like, okay, this is starting to become quite a bit for me. I think I need better internet presence, but I don't know where to start. I think I need to show up different, maybe if I already have a website, right, on my website, but I don't really know how to mess with it. Or I'm getting more customers and I need more time. Those are the typical questions that the business owner that we work with it's asking himself at the time, right? And
it kind of sounds like an oxymoron. More customers, but I also need more time.
Yes.
How are you helping them do this oxymoronic relationship of of the better of both?
I think that's where like the automation piece, right, and the time management makes a difference, because you may not have enough time because you're spending too much time doing admin work or like figuring out how to send the email correctly, right? Like you drafted it 3 times to make sure that it's right. It's using your time to do things that technology can now do for you, so that you can free up time and be able to spend more time doing strategy towards your business, doing the consultations, doing the things that will drive you more business, and not the ones that are taking up your time and not actually making you any money. That's, I would say that's normally where we find ourselves to start with. And as far as the questions that I like to ask is, I always like to start with like, why did you start the business? Like what was your inspiration and your dream? And a simple question like that triggers somebody to just tell you enough about where they wanna, where they started and where they wanna get to, where their ambition is. And then you start making decisions right around like, okay, based on where you wanna get to, here are the different phases of where you wanna start. And I think it's important to also know that it's not always where you think it should start. Sometimes it's more of the boring things that have to happen at first, for the flashy, what is my logo going to look like, and what is going to be all my colors, right? Like I think that's where people normally want to get to, because it's the exciting part. But it's normally more about like, how do we create the right foundation, whether it's a technical foundation or the understanding of what your brand is and who your customer is too. And I think that is a whole other conversation of like knowing that you can't target to everyone because you won't connect with everyone. So understanding who is the people that I need to connect with.
Great. Yep.
So.
Are there maybe a few types of customers that gravitate to working with you on a more regular basis? And do you have any examples of value you've brought those customers?
Yeah, look, like I said, anybody that's in that stage of growth, I think it's an ideal customer for us. But I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of professional services.
Okay.
So companies that do consulting, whether it is performance consulting or consulting around finding purposeful jobs. We've also worked with a local photographer actually in the area as well.
Okay.
But I think that the common denominator is being at that place where like, okay, I'm ready to take the next step.
Yep.
And then I think for them is, like to give you an example for like the photography business, right? It was about really, they were doing a lot of their bookings manually,
Okay.
and a lot of conversations through like Facebook messaging and Instagram messaging, which was working at the time.
Yep.
But it got to the point where it was getting disorganized.
I see.
But then also where like there weren't enough customers coming in.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of a dual process. And so we redid the website. We built it in a way that it really showcased the work and the capabilities. We created it in a way that it was easy for all the bookings and conversations to happen in one place to keep it more organized. A members portal. So once we created that and they started doing business not too differently than they were, but now using the new tool. And they started getting so many more bookings and so many more commitments, because think about the times where you're like, oh, I think I want to do that. Then you message the person, then they get back to you, then something else happens in life. And then it's not that you didn't want to do it anymore, but life happened, right?
We lost the lead and they still want to do business, but
you are probably so familiar with that too, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah,
Funnel fall through is huge, right? You can't forget those leads and have
people
to have
need
that
to be
plan.
nurtured,
Yep, exactly.
right? To be reminded of it. So if you can create that kind of a experience in the website, then that can help you do some of that for
That's
you,
huge.
right?
Yep.
So then, I got, like after a month of having the website, I got a message from the business owner saying, there has been so many more bookings that I don't know why it took so long for us to take this lead,
That's so
because
cool.
it made a big difference in how we show up, right? And
Yeah.
now they're staying booked. That's similar with another consulting agency. They were actually at the point where they were hiring people and starting to do more meaningful work, and they needed a system in the website that helped them not only create more bookings, but then also be able to showcase the fact that now they were a team and not just an individual, and highlight the different skill sets of the team and why it was important to consider every option.
Yeah.
I actually still manage some of their website, and I can tell you there's not a day where they're not getting new bookings for consultations and continuous work, which was not the experience that they had before.
Yeah.
So, it is nice to see that the work that sometimes starts with an idea, and that it really, like I said, it starts sometimes not in the most exciting part of things, but it ends up coming through in a product. It's nice to see it then start building, like creating the fruit of the work that you expected it to.
Planned from the beginning.
Yes,
Yeah. What would you say to the skeptic? Maybe somebody who's always just lived off of word of mouth business, marketing. Is there value in their business, or maybe in some cases they're just not there? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think that you need to feel ready when you go into an investment in a situation where building your brand and building your website is a relationship with an agency. It's not something that you're just gonna give and say, oh, here, can you do this for me? Because we've got to understand what drove you there, right? And how it's that you want to show up. Otherwise, we can create a great product, but it's not going to connect with you either. So the connection, I think, needs to start there. But then also, I think it's important to understand that like the way that you started your business doesn't need to be the way that you continue to do it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna change your results. I think that it can change the way that you do the business so that you can get more results. There's just so many times where people spend time on things that they feel like are gonna make a big difference, like drafting an email, whether it's a thank you email or an introduction email, an onboarding process of a customer, right?
Okay.
If it's something repetitive, if you've got a process that you follow every time, like that can be automated. So think of yourself of what would it be like for me to not have to do that and still feel confident that the process is being done right?
Right.
What could I do with that time? What would it mean for me to have 10 hours, 20 hours back in my week? What could I do with that? What could that do for my business? And I think if the answer is that will help my business and help it grow, then that's probably a sign that you should explore the opportunity of bringing in a marketing agency to help you with it. Good. Especially one that has expertise around automations and AI, because that's really where most businesses are being pushed to go.
Sure, for sure. And this probably comes a lot, and I know in our conversations you mentioned that you've done a lot of internal marketing, internal communications as well within that large enterprise that you worked at, right? I'd imagine a lot of that comes from those visions as well. It's like you have the external message, but you also have your existing clients and that customer journey and the walkthrough process of engagement there that plays into the bigger picture. So
for sure, and for companies that are in a point where they have employees, like that internal employee journey is just as important too, right? Because they need to understand, and they're the ones that are going to be selling your products. If they're not connected to everything you're putting out, then there's going to be, like I said earlier, a disconnecting voice, right? And that's not a good thing for companies.
Right. No, for sure. Good. So AI in other people's companies and automations in other people's companies, I know this is a strong focus for you. Have you applied any of that to your own company?
Yes, and with automations, I think we're talking about building some new things, just the agentic work, just becoming more familiar with it. But things that I consider simple are like a daily competitive market analysis of business around you. Has anything changed? Is there anything new that I need to know? With AI tools I think most people, either you may sign up for a newsletter or have multiple newsletters. You can set up an automation so that you're getting a customized newsletter that is either a combination of all of the things that you receive in your email or a combination of topics that you're asking the agent to go out and search on a daily basis, so you can start your day the right way. I get a daily brief of my calendar to understand where opportunities are, and adding, either removing a meeting or like adding more time into working time. It's just managing the things that I don't want to think about for the business, right? But that I want to feel confident that are still happening. Those are different areas that I've implemented it. I just recently started creating the customer service agents that we talked about, where it's it monitors email and creates replies automatically based on a data set that you give it.
Great.
I would say those are some of the probably basics of, and things like when you book a consultation with us, you get an automated reply, and the simple automations. I think those are probably the ones that are most fundamental, and we're experiencing with a few other bigger things, but I would say for the small business owner that it's at the states that I was explaining, those are typically the ones that drive the most ROI.
Awesome, very good, great. So we talked about websites, we talked about automation, but let's talk about social media too. I think you briefly talked about this with the photographer and discussions there that happened, but what should a business be looking for when it comes to social media, and maybe how can you help them in those ways?
Yeah. Well, one, making sure that you are social media, right? Like it's almost as important as your website in some ways, if not even more, now that AI is driving a lot of search outputs for people. So your social media needs to be connected to how your website does business as well. So I think that looking at your social media, it's an important part of like how you show up from a brand perspective and a tone of voice. But then from an automation perspective, creating content calendars can be done automatically. And content calendars that also feed off of previous content calendars, so that you're not repeating the same type of content. And what I tell most businesses is, if you don't know where to start, like start thinking about the things that your business already does well. Pick 3 pillars that already exists. Like maybe it's, for me, let's say like automation, small business owners, and brand marketing, right? So then from those 3 pillars, then you start building different topics, right? So like you figure out like an emotional topic, a real success story, and something you want to inform your audience about. So now you got 3 pillars and then 3 different topics you can do. That's already 9 different topics that you've got built out, and then you just create a sequence of that, right? And
so is it like basically every week you're gonna make those 9 pieces essentially, and you're blasting that out, or how does that look in practicality?
You could.
Calendar, okay.
You could every week start doing the 9 pieces, or you could create an agent or an automation process that already understands that and then starts creating content for you so that you can approve it and then be able to post it on your social media.
Very cool. Smash the easy button times 2, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, listen, with AI right now, the possibilities are really strong, but the work still needs to be reviewed, right? It's not always the perfect output. It's not always exactly what's in your mind, but it will give you enough for you to be able to approve, draft or create more ideas from there. So I would say when I do the social media automation, out of 10 posts that I create, maybe 7 of those are like truly things that I can use, and the other 3 were just not exactly what I was looking for.
So let's talk about that, right? AI makes errors or has hallucinations or other things like that, and a lot of times people face that and they just like, forget it, it's worthless, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
Well, number one, that it proves still, like we were talking about earlier, it's taking people's jobs. It's not at that point, right? It's not smart enough yet. It needs human validation still, or monitoring. Also, it's, these models are getting better every day.
Yep.
So I think that if you experience something even 5 months ago, the tool probably looks completely different now, and some of the issues that maybe you had don't exist there anymore. It makes mistakes, so it's always good to, like, if it's giving you something that's important, ask it to fact check the information, or you can do a manual fact check to make sure that, hey, is this right? So I think understanding that while they're not perfect, they're pretty good, and you should always, or I always advise, don't take the first output, or even the output that you think is good, just from what AI told you. Like, figure out that it is correct first, before you approve it.
Cool, great. And I remember seeing one of your social media posts on the Ellison Residence page, where you talked about using 200 some different tools of AI, right?
Yeah.
And experimenting with different things. Tell us, like, what are some of the interesting things that are out there today, and what gets you excited about those tools?
Oh gosh. So to understand this perspective, I think it's important to know that, so like AI, it's what builds things, but what really determines how good the output is how the model has been educated, right? How it's been trained to do things and what to reference. So, there's not one model that does photos. There's, at this point, I don't know how many really. I'm sure probably hundreds, but like, there's at least a top 10 that I can think of. And I use different ones for different types of images that I want to create, right? Like one may give better photorealistic things. The other one may be better at like character cohesion, and it's giving me the same type of person over and over and over that the other model can't achieve. One of them, maybe it's just faster at creating things that are simple, like vector images or or not logos, but icons. So it's really understanding the strength of each model, and that it is supposed to be a tool stack, I guess. But there are models out there that can make your logo be 3D in like less than a minute, right? And now you've got a floating 3D logo out there. There is a recent one where you feed it like characters, scene, and what you want it to happen, and it builds about a 30-second full like episode that explains all the different things you do. There's Notebook LM. I highly promote that tool. It's free for most people that have a Google account.
What does that help you do?
And a way to be able to give or create notebooks from sources of information. So like if you want to do a study session on, I don't know, the importance of color in branding, right? You can feed it like 5 books or articles or websites or YouTube videos. It takes any format, and then it uses it to train itself like a mini agent, and then you can start having conversations with it, ask it to do customized things, but it's only pulling from the sources you've given it.
Wow.
And then it can create a podcast for you and a video explanation of the topics with one click. And when I tell you that these podcasts and videos sound like a real human talking, it is really crazy, but it works really, really well. So you think about just even content marketing in general, right? If you're not knowing where to start, that's a place where you can start.
That's incredible.
Now you've got a podcast that you can create with just a few clicks.
So if somebody, let's just say, has a lot of social media content already out there, maybe a lot of YouTube videos already out there or blogs out there, I could feed it those things essentially, and it could learn like my voice, expertise, that kinds of stuff.
Yes.
And you could prompt it to kind of automate generation of new content. Is that kind of the idea?
It can, yeah.
Wow.
So it's a full interactive model. So you can ask it questions, you can ask for requests. You know, if you're using it to study, like to do like a market analysis, it can create a study guide for you, FAQs. I mean, just think of any output that you can think of that is sourcing from that content. That tool will let you do it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, for sure.
But you know, there's plenty of agents that manage all of your administrative things like your email and your calendar, just from prompting requests. There are what would be another one that's, you know, I think it's been pretty popular where people have been seeing this like AI videos that look very real, like VO3.
Yeah.
It's one that makes that, but. There are other models out there, LLL Runway, it's another one that creates very good videos, and opposed to what like VO3 does, where it creates an 8-second video for you. This one, you give it a starting point and an end point, and it can do 30 minutes worth of content for you.
Wow.
So it really depends on what you want to do. Like I said, test it over 200, and new ones come up all the time. By the way, there's a few that I took the time to go to last week, and from there I test them, I push the limits on them, and then if it can handle it, I put it in my vault. If not, then I'm like, all right, this one's gonna need some work. Type of thing.
That's so cool. Very cool. Ricardo, thanks so much again for joining us today, letting us learn a little bit more about your business, how you got started, and a lot of cool things with AI, marketing, and all those kinds of things. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, get in touch with you, hey, I need help with some of the things we're talking about here in this marketing and automation space, where do they go? Where do they find you?
Yes, thank you. So you can go to our website, which is poppymarketingandconsulting.com. And that's Poppy like the flower. Also inspired by the fact that my kids call me Poppy. So
there you go.
Then if not, for neighbors, I am on the Facebook. And I actually feel pretty proud. They just gave me a top contributor badge. I don't know how I got there, but apparently I'm posting enough. But I am on Facebook. Or you can email us at email@poppy-marketing.com.
Great. Thanks again so much. It was great.
Thank you.
Conversation.